ESPN welcomes you to the following presentation of the National Football League.
Very comfortable evening here at the Meadowlands as Rex Ryan and the Jets get a chance to erase the disappointment of the blown lead at Lambeau last week. Both of these teams 1-1, rare meeting, and an odd situation for the Jets, who will get the ball first. The Bears won the toss, deferred the option to the second half, so the Jets will receive here. I say odd, John, because it's 3 straight weeks for the Jets against NFC North teams. Green Bay last week, Detroit next week, Chicago this week, so it's been hard to prepare here at the start of the season.
Very hard, and this young Jets secondary is going to see a lot of great quarterbacks in the coming weeks.
Robbie Gould kicks it off to get us underway here at MetLife Stadium. Salim Hakeem has tremendous speed, but gets taken down before he can kick into a 5th gear at the 20-yard line. We talked about Geno Smith at the beginning. He's played very well in this stadium. 2nd-round pick, the starter from the beginning of his rookie year. And John, I alluded to it, Marty Mornhinweg is gaining more confidence, the offensive coordinator, in his quarterback.
Yes, he is, Mike. You're going to see some no-huddle offense tonight. They're going to empower Geno Smith to do some things that he gets to on his own.
Opening drive starts from the 21, and Geno looking to throw, covered downfield, so he takes off and gets right at the first down mark at the 31-yard line. So the sideline personnel there for the Bears took a heavy hit, and so did Geno on the white, and the flag's down.
It's going to be a bootleg off your right side, and watch number 99, Lamar Houston.
Roughness, defense, number 93, late hit out of bounds against the quarterback. 15-yard penalty at the end of the run, first down.
A foot on the border there, and thus the 15. It's a big gain. Will Sutton right out of the gate. He's starting because Jeremiah Ratliff is out. That's the rookie's first NFL start. That play gained 26 with the flag, and from the 46, trying to get the screens, but right, it's intercepted, and all the way is Ryan Mundy. Monday Night Football. Touchdown, Chicago.
That's a bad play by Geno Smith. When you throw a screen pass, you have to see the throw. See the throwing lane before you let it go. That time they fake a bubble screen to the left. He turns around to throw the screen to Chris Johnson. And you're going to see Mundy come on the left side of your screen for an easy interception. The Bears had 4 turnovers last week against the San Francisco 49ers. Lance Briggs told us last night we need to score a touchdown with a turnover. They were listening. What a play by Mundy.
45 yards on the return. It is his first NFL touchdown. Robbie Gould adds the extra point. Mundy, one West Virginia Mountaineer, intercepts another in Geno Smith for the game's opening points.
Well, it's a designer screen. You see it every week. They're going to fake a bubble screen to Curley, and they're going to try to throw a screen to Chris Johnson on the backside. But Geno has to flash his eyes and see the throw. Ryan Mundy saw it all the way. The Jets had a big tendency coming in here, Mike. They love to throw screens to Chris Johnson and use his perimeter screen speed. You have to credit this Bear defense for reading their tip sheet. Terrible way to start the game for Geno Smith.
John, we talked to Mundy last night, and one of the things the Bears had issues with last year was their safety play. They had 8 different safeties in their training camp. 6 of them had starting experience. Somebody had to emerge. And while they were looking for that second guy, when we were at the Bears camp, they identified Mundy right away as someone whose ability and communication skills fit, and he was going to be one of the 2 safeties.
Been around a lot. Mundy played for the Steelers, played for the Giants, leads his Bear team in tackles, and he just made a big impact play.
Hakeem will take it out. Salim Hakeem knocked down at the 11-yard line. Sonaris Perry on the tackle, so a good early start for the Bears. To Brickashaw, Ferguson, Nick Mangold. They've been together for about 9 years. Real fortresses on that Jets offensive line. Meantime, the players handling the ball as well. Decker, the wide receiver, the hamstring injury. We'll watch closely. He is going. Ivory and Johnson, the two backs who will handle it the most. You'll see Curley in the slot a lot, along with David Nelson. One thing Marty Morningwig likes to do early, John, a lot of formations, run a lot of different plays, and deceive the opposition. In the hands of Chris Johnson, he'll run for 3 to the 14-yard line, and Lance Briggs comes up with the tackle.
We're going to run a lot of these zone reads tonight. They're just going to lock down. They're going to read the end man on the line of scrimmage, and whatever Willie Young does, Geno Smith is going to read. That time he gave the ball to the back, but you're going to see that common scheme several more times tonight.
Chris Ivory now joins Chris Johnson, both lead running backs in the game. Time for Smith, and he's got Ivory, who has a first down into Chicago's 31, 32-yard line, let's call it. Chris Conti comes up with a tackle.
This Chris Ivory is hard to tackle. Watch this little check down off the right side of the screen. Just a simple play action pass, plenty of time, good pass protection, but Chris Ivory makes as much after contact as any back in football, and I'm sure statistics back that up.
Gain of 17 on that one. Chris Johnson, of course, the former Tennessee Titan who had a 2,000-yard season back in 2009. Look at that Bears defense. Will Sutton got the penalty earlier. I mentioned he's starting because Jeremiah Ratliff is out with a concussion. Joining Houston, Paya, and Allen. Jonathan Bostic starts at linebacker. Shea McClellan out with Williams and the longtime Bear Briggs. You've already seen Ryan Mundy's work. Kyle Fuller starts at center. Michael Vick in the game for the Jets. Takes the direct snap, and he's pulled down from behind. A gain of about 3. E.J. Williams and Fuller stopped Vick. That was his 6th snap of the season.
That's a designed running play. They're going to block down, and they're going to pull linemen and try to get Michael Vick running to his left on the edge. That time the Bears did a nice job of containing it. Corey Fuller, their rookie right corner, continues to tackle at a high level.
Geno Smith back in for 3rd and 3. 4-man rush. The pass is deflected and nearly intercepted on the deflection by Lamar Houston. So they're going to move inside tonight, John, to play defensive tackle in a bunch of situations.
This is what Chicago does on defense. Double A gap blitz. 2 linebackers between the center and the guard. Where does Nick Mangold go? Where does the back go? They're not decisive. There's penetration, a tip pass, and so far, this Jet offense struggling.
Fans are reacting as Santonio Holmes, the former Jet for 4 years until last year, and urging the crowd on as Ryan Quigley punts it away. And Holmes calls for it and makes the fair catch on a 44-yard punt by the second-year man Quigley. Jay Cutler's team is up 7. He hasn't touched the ball yet. He will in a moment. ESPN's Monday Night Football brought to you by GMC. Enter the Never Say Never sweepstakes for a chance to win a 2015 GMC vehicle at gmc.com/NFL. By T-Mobile and by Autotrader.com. Land a great deal on your perfect car at Autotrader.com. Giants blue on Sunday, Jets green on Monday. Doesn't happen with the snap of a finger. A lot of folks had to turn this place around. This multi-use stadium. Some of the workers on these busy weekends sleep, eat, and shower here at the stadium. So it looks like the house of the Jets on a Monday night. Jay Cutler takes over from his own 17. On first down, they throw quick. It's high for Alshon Jeffrey. And incomplete. John talked about that finest hour for Jay Cutler last week. Remember, he signed a 7-year deal in the offseason. He has been with the Bears here for a good amount of time, getting them to the playoffs once. Now the deal, the offense in place. Can he continue to build on that and get this team to the postseason for the 2nd time in his tenure?
It all starts with pass protection tonight. Can Jay Cutler decipher this Jet defense, all the blitzes and all the disguises in the noise.
Toss it to Forte on the edge. Great read, nowhere to go. Darren Wells, who's starting for the injured D. Milner.
That play had no chance. Penetration from the corner position. You're going to see off your left side. Walls just flash, and there's nobody to account for him, and that's a loss of three.
This is where Rex Ryan loves to bring pressure. 3rd and long after the play by Walls.
You see Evan Britton is checked in as a tight end. He's an offensive tackle. They're looking to get added protection for Jay Cutler in these obvious 3rd down situations.
Play clock running down, and timeout taken from the sideline. Bears sideline saw the play clock running down. Personnel in late.
Chicago, they're first.
3rd and 14 coming up when you come back. Early pick 6 has given the Bears the edge, 7-0. Jets fans trying to get behind their defense as Chicago faces 3rd and 14. Santonio Holmes, the lone receiver to the right of Cutler.
Showing pressure. Let's see if the Bears max the protection.
Cutler pressured and got rid of it in time. Short gain for Forte. And it'll be 3 and out as David Harris makes the tackle for New York.
Rex Ryan will drive you crazy. That's what we talked about in the pregame. Show Jay Cutler pressure. And on the snap of the ball, everybody retreats into a zone coverage. You keep the tight end, number 83, Bennett, in the block. You have to check the ball down, and down goes the back. Excellent job by the New York Jet defense.
Patrick O'Donnell's a rookie out of Miami of Florida. Jalen Saunders receiving, a rookie out of Oklahoma. Jet bluffing pressure right over the center, and it looks like there was movement on that Bears front. Jerome Boger's our referee tonight.
False start. Offense, number 21. 5-yard penalty. Still 4th down.
Man who scored the touchdown, you can excuse that. He gave you 7 points. O'Donnell got pressure. They blocked one of his last week against San Francisco. Almost got that. It is muffed by Saunders, who was unable to get back on it, and the Bears recover. Ahmad Dixon down there as the rookie Saunders muffed the catch. And the Bears will get the ball back.
Terrible mistake. They almost blocked the punt off the edge. Might have even got a piece of it. And Saunders just misjudges the ball. And there for the recovery is Ahmad Dixon, the ex-Baylor Bear. And it sets up Cutler. Heads up for play action after a sudden change.
From the 40, Cutler loaded, looking, sending the shot downfield, underthrown and incomplete, trying to get Jeffrey. Walls in coverage, but a flag.
I think Cutler tried to back shoulder that throw, and
Pass interference. Defense, number 30. Grabbing the arm of the receiver. Spot the foul. Automatic 1st down.
blitz off the edge. It's one-on-one coverage. That's Jay Cutler's training in this game. I didn't see it.
It's the other way around, actually. It's Jeffrey who grabs the receiver of the DB, not Walls who grabbed Jeffrey's arm. That's a miss there.
I didn't see that at all. Keep an eye on Marshall. Go-to red zone target is number 15 on the edge against Antonio Allen.
33 yards on that penalty. First and goal. Cutler looking Marshall's way. That time he overthrows him. It's Antonio Allen at 6'1", trying to stay with that outstanding red zone target.
There's no question about this game plan. Hey, Cutler, if it's one-on-one coverage, throw the ball to Alshon Jeffrey or give a hand signal to Brandon Marshall. Just a subtle hand signal by Cutler. It's a high point fade, and Antonio Allen has surprising athleticism. He's got very good size. He was an excellent safety. He's played dime linebacker. He has ball skills and length. And they like the matchup with he and these big bear receivers.
Play clock running down. Cutler telling him, I need it now. He's got it. And on the slant, Marshall couldn't hang on. And it's Walls over there covering on the corner.
The simple slant pattern. Cutler tried to throw a dead ball and stop Marshall before the safety arrived. You must be careful against this young safety, Mike. This Calvin Pryor will smack you. Third down. Expect the Jets to drop everybody in coverage. They love maximum zone from a pressure look.
This has been a guaranteed 7 so often to Marshall. The last 9 times they've had first and goal. Cutler looking at his 2 big receivers. Now is flush. Fires to the back. Caught for the touchdown by Martellus Bennett.
Unbelievable.
Flag down back by Cutler where he threw it.
Personal foul. Roughing the passer. Defense, number 91. Half the distance to the goal. Automatic first down.
That was a touchdown. What?
I thought it was, and now they're telling Jerome Boger that he missed the fact that it was a touchdown.
Watch the Jets.
The 15-yard penalty will be enforced on the kickoff. Touchdown.
3-man rush. The Jets bail, and Sheldon Richardson took 2 steps. Jerry Austin says it's a penalty, so I'll agree with you, Jerry.
Jerry, our referee from the Super Bowl, twice up here in the booth. Extra point added by Robbie Gould. The Jets' mistakes here in the first 5:06 of this one, a factor. Although the pass interference call against Walls was a tough one to go against New York, they make him pay with a touchdown pass to Bennett. 14-0 Bears. Not exactly a great offensive start. Number 6's offense has 6 plays and 6 yards. But a pick 6 thrown by Geno Smith of the Jets, and then the muffed punt by the rookie Jalen Saunders, plus the pass interference, and all of that leads to 14-0 quickly. Jets in a hole 5 minutes and 6 seconds in. As they went for that ball after the muffed punt, Saunders' shoulder was banged up. Robbie Gould picks it, and a wise decision by Bilal Powell not to take it out.
We'll take a look at Bennett at the top of the screen. He's going to catch the ball, but the Jets are showing pressure. They're bailing out. They're rushing 3. They're playing a prevent maximum zone coverage. Rex Ryan can't win. Last week he played man-to-man coverage, and his corners got beat. So far, I've just seen him play maximum zone and get beat. It's tough to play when you don't have a lot of confidence in your corners.
You have those receivers in the red zone, too. And Bennett's the one who gets him. So the Jets need to do something here offensively. Chris Ivory with the carry. John, this is one of those tough ones. You get this real shot to the system early on. You're down 14-0. It's when you have veteran play callers. You need to stick to your game plan. It's very early in this game.
They're continuing the no-huddle offense. Let's see what Geno Smith's made of. He brought him back 5 times to win last year in the 4th quarter. He showed a lot of mental toughness.
After the gain of 4, they'll go back to the air on 2nd down. And Smith throws across the middle. His tight end, Jeff Cumberland, to catch the 35-yard line. DJ Williams and Jonathan Bostic, the linebackers, bring him down.
It's an old West Coast principle. A little reverse pivot, a little 6-step setup, and Cumberland comes inside on a basic cross, and Geno throws a nice ball.
35-yard line. It'll be the run for Ivory for 4 yards. So, John, you have these 2 backs. Chris Ivory, who was undrafted as a rookie, really opened eyes at New Orleans at 716 yards that rookie season. draft day trade last year brought him to the Jets, where he led the team in rushing in 2013.
No doubt, and he had a 71-yard run against the Raiders in the opening game, and he has finishing speed, and he can run you over. Physical back.
Gain of 5. It's right back to Ivory. Cumberland, the tight end, with 1 block, but nowhere else to go. Lance Briggs bringing the Bears defense with DJ Williams. No gain.
Lance Briggs might be his last year with the Chicago Bears, but I thought he came to life last week against the 49ers in the second half, and he's known for these kind of hits. One of the best downhill linebackers the Bears have ever seen.
12 years in the league, 7 times to the Pro Bowl. Yep. 3rd down, so Bilal Powell checks in as the Jets back. And Smith has 3 downfield looking for Decker. Goes up, took a big hit. Did he hold on to the 40? Yes, it's ruled a catch. Ball came out later. 19-yard gain in the 1st down.
I like a receiver that'll go inside, catch the ball away from his body, and show no fear. That time Decker went up and got it with Conti beating down on him from the free safety position. Great concentration. Nice job protecting the ball in a crowd.
Decker a question mark coming in. Hamstring injury. Out at the end of the game in Green Bay. We watched him practice Saturday. Looked pretty good. He's out for the moment. That's Jeremy Curley. Does a lot on the edge here for the Jets. But the Bears know that too, and Jonathan Bostic erased that one.
Bostic has his hands full, Mike. He's been playing in the sub package only with the injury to Shea McClellan, which you pointed out earlier. He's back in the base defense at the Sam linebacker position. That's the strong side in this Bear defense. That time he showed good pursuit, made a nice open field tackle.
Second and 9. And Smith again with time. Finds Ivory for the 1st down and more. Ivory almost lost the ball, but he hangs on. Takes it to the 17-yard line. Gain of 23.
I like what Geno did. A little trap pass. They're trying to take a shot down the field. The Bears read it quite well, and Ivory just checks right out of the backfield to your right side. Play action pass. Taking a shot down the field. Good check down, and off goes Ivory. And once again, he punishes people after the catch.
Good 1-2 combo of backs with Chris Johnson and Chris Ivory. Jets in the red zone. Ivory got out of the 1st tackle by Bostic. And maybe they'll give him a yard with his forward progress around the 15-yard line.
So far, these Bears have done a nice job against that zone read. And if you could stop that play early, a lot of times offensive coordinators will get away from it. And I know Jared Allen is sick of seeing that play. He wants to rush the passer, and to do that, they have to stop these early down runs and get the Jets behind in the chains.
It's both of their tight ends tight to the bottom of the screen. Smith covered downfield, keeps the play alive for the moment, and then is brought down. Ego Ferguson, the rookie out of LSU, comes up with his 1st NFL sack.
Geno held the ball a long way. These are 2 rookie players. There's Ego Ferguson at the nose tackle position, working against Nick Mangold. Geno's got to find somewhere to go with the football, either complete or incomplete, but you cannot hold the ball that long.
Can't take a 13-yard loss there. Saw that last week as well. 3rd and 22. It's a 4-man rush, sets the screen. Here's Cumberland, the tight end. Can't get through the lineman who rallied back to the ball. And from here, a 43-yard field goal attempt is coming.
You know, Jared Allen doesn't have any sacks yet, but he plays 93% of the snaps. Watch the effort. He rushes the passer. He goes to the inside. He sees the screen, and there he goes to show up on the tackle. And Jared Allen,
good kicker, Nick Folk. Tremendous season last year. 3 for 3 this year. Officially from 43 yards. And he knocks it home. The Jets move the ball down the field. Mistake by Geno Smith in the red zone with that big sack, but they get points. And the deficit now 11. Interesting start to this one with the Jets. A couple of mistakes allowing the Bears to capitalize and get on top 14-0. Jet drive was the best one by either team in this first quarter. 11 plays, 55 yards. The Bears will get their hands back on the ball after the kick from Nick Folk. Yards deep and returnable for Rashad Ross. Headed off the practice squad this week. Stopped shy of the 15-yard line by Greg Salas. Backup receiver for the Jets. Jay Cutler's had a very good Monday Night Football career as the Bears quarterback. Back on the field this Monday in a moment. Unmistakable big buildings in New York City. Final night of summer. Actually, this game kicks off in summer, John, and will end in fall. The autumnal equinox comes about 10:30 Eastern time tonight. Bears take over at their own 15-yard line. Third Chicago drive. Bring 5. Cutler has time and has Bennett 16 yards and a first down for the tight end.
Just good pass protection. The Jets blitz off the right side. Chicago picks it up, and Bennett, number 83, right side of your screen, beats DeJuan Landry on a basic cross easily.
A little tap at the center lets him know you can snap it. Cutler's got it. And he throws a strike that's knocked away. Marshall was being double covered and blanketed. Antonio Allen was one of the players there. I mentioned the tap. It was from the left guard Ola to the center De La Puente. Those two are replacing Matt Slauson, the ex-Jet, and Roberto Garza, the veteran, inside. We've already heard from Marshall, Jeffrey, Bennett, Matt Forte, the running back who does so much of this team. And Santonio Holmes, a third or fourth receiver for the Bears here, as they've gotten Josh Morgan back healthy and back in practice this last week. The ex-Jet Holmes excited to come back here tonight. 2nd and 10, Jeffrey got a good block from Marshall. Got a good block from Bennett and gets the first down at the 44-yard line.
Well, the Jets get caught in another disguise. They're showing blitz. They bail out late, and they're in no position to defend this quick screen. Nice blocking on a perimeter by Bennett and Marshall, and they love throwing these quick fastball screens to Alshon Jeffrey. He's outstanding after the catch.
Cutler again out of his hands. It's Bennett one more time. Made 2 Jets miss. And he ends up gaining 8 yards on the play.
Should be a gain of 0. Demario Davis, third-year linebacker, just overran it. And what distinguishes these great receivers of the Bears is their ability to run with the ball after they catch it. Bennett, for a tight end, outstanding.
Bennett came in leading this team with 15 receptions. Had 8 in the loss to Buffalo, 7 and the game-winning touchdown last week in Santa Clara against the 49ers. 2nd and 1, Tony Fiametta, the fullback out of Syracuse, leads the way for Forte. Not going to go anywhere. Muhammad Wilkerson, the best player on this Jets defense, comes up with a tackle. He was ejected last week in the game against Green Bay, along with the third-year man, Damon Harrison up front, and Sheldon Richardson, the defensive rookie of the year from a year ago. Harrison Davis in the middle, Copels and Pace off the edge. We've talked a lot about the secondary under pressure tonight. 3rd and 2. Jets back into coverage. Cutler throws complete to Jeffrey at the 38-yard line. Gain of 10. Another Bears first down.
The Jets are going to have to change this defensive philosophy. They continue to show blitz. Look at all these Jets crowding the line of scrimmage. They drop out of there on the snap. And Cutler has plenty of time to survey the defense and find an open look.
Final minute of this first quarter. Good one for the Bears. Cutler on the sideline, caught by Santonio Holmes. As you can hear the Jets fans respond. Welcome back.
Simple outside breaking route, and Antonio Allen caught in a run out technique. No problem, and Cutler has jumped into no huddle offense.
Toss Forte, tackle Bushrod out there, but the Jets finally get him and making a loss of a couple. Wilkerson.
All three runs have been negative yardage runs. Take a look at Muhammad Wilkerson, right side of your screen, number 96. Got exceptional lateral ability. Had 10.5 sacks last week. Batted 3 balls down in the opening game. He can play any position on the defensive line. This Jet defense needs to generate a turnover. It's what they have not been able to do in the last year or so.
Play 9 of this drive. They'll have to get the snap off before the quarter ends. Just do get it off in time as Cutler's got a lot of time. Going to take off and run. And he ripped San Francisco with a big 25-yard run last week. He's out of bounds for a first down in the red zone. Gain of 16 as the quarter comes to an end. Bears on the move, leading the Jets by 11 on Monday Night Football.
ESPN celebrating 45 years of Monday Night Football.
Bears leading by 11. Chicago had the advantage of a couple of Jet mistakes early on. So the stats don't look as lopsided as the score. The key to 2 turnovers. One the pick 6 and one the muffed punt. The Bears have turned into their 14 points. The Jets responded with a good drive to get their field goal. Now Chicago's doing the same. This is play 10 of the drive as we get the second quarter underway. Again, time for Cutler. Zings it in, and Antonio Allen able to break it up. Incomplete.
I'm really impressed with this Bear offensive line. They have protected extremely well. They have smelled out a lot of crazy looks from this defense. But watch the center, number 64, De La Puente. He just pins Kendrick Ellis, a backup nose tackle. De La Puente, filling in for Garza, had 44 starts for the New Orleans Saints. He knows what he's doing. That was impressive.
His offensive line coach there, Aaron Kromer's the offensive coordinator here with the Bears. 2nd and 10. Cutler felt the heat, got rid of it right at the feet of Forte. As Jason Babin, now in his 11th year in the league, at 34 years old, got some pressure.
Babin's come full circle, had 7.5 sacks with the Jaguars last year. Broke into the league as a 34 outside backer. Now he's here to rush the passer, and here's Cutler in 3rd and 10.
Remember on this drive, 3rd and 2, he hit Jeffrey for 10 yards. 3rd and 6, he scrambled for 16 yards.
Once again, they're showing flush pressure. Let's see if they bring it or if they bail.
3rd and 10, the Jets bring 5. Pressure's on. Cutler throws to the end zone. Bennett couldn't pull it in. Flag down.
He just had DeMario Davis, number 56, a linebacker playing free safety. I'm seeing some of the strangest.
Holding. Defense, number 39. 5-yard penalty. First down.
Got Antonio Allen, the corner, and that was thrown a yard away from the line of scrimmage, a couple yards away from the line of scrimmage.
Showing Jay Cutler all kind of looks. Watch number 56. He's in the middle of the field, a free safety. Cutler looked him off easily and made a great throw to Bennett, who couldn't hang on. But Antonio Allen gets called for the penalty. Thought Bennett should have caught that.
Allen was on the left side of your screen. The flag happened only a few yards away from the line of scrimmage, but it gives Chicago fresh set of downs. Number 13, Cutler wanted to get going. Forte into the arms of Damon Harrison, but he carries him to the 6-yard line. Good strong run by Forte.
Good to see Tony Fiametta back. They've missed their fullback. They haven't been able to run the ball in any 2-back sets. That time an isolation play, and Tony Fiammetta does a nice job at the point of attack, and Forte surges for a nice run.
Fiammetta was injured week 1 with a hamstring injury. Then as they made roster moves, had to cut him week 2, now back.
Marshall again at the top of the screen, one-on-one.
See Marshall's hand there behind his back as he hand signals with Cutler as well. Not just the QB giving hand signals. He'll come the other way for Jeffrey, and the pass is incomplete.
Jay Cutler is disgusted with himself. It's like Field of Dreams right now for Jay Cutler. He's got the 6'5" Marshall on one side, and he's got Alshon Jeffrey, an emerging superstar, on his right side. Cutler just missed the throw. It's a check with me situation. They can hand the ball to Forte, and if they load the box, he can hand signal to either one of these great big receivers.
Play 14 of the drive. Look at everybody over to the right side of the quarterback. Just Marshall alone on the left. Good pickup by Forte. Cutler's pass for Jeffrey, again incomplete. Calvin Pryor, the rookie safety, able to get in the way.
That lucky there. That ball could have been intercepted. Threw that into traffic. And Pryor, number 25, does a nice job breaking on the ball, and I think he got his right hand in there. Nice play by Pryor, who had his struggles last week in Green Bay. Nice work.
Jets secondary comes up big there, and Robbie Gould, one of the top kickers in league history, from 24 yards. Knocks it through, and the Bears extend the lead again to 14. Jets defense held Cutler 0 for his last 4 attempts to keep the Bears out of the end zone. ESPN's Monday Night Football, brought to you by the all-new 2015 Acura TLX. It's that kind of thrill. LiftMaster, no other garage door opener opens your world like a LiftMaster. And NFLShop.com, find the largest selection of NFL products at the official store of the NFL. Lady Liberty looking fine in the Hudson on this Monday night, and our coverage from Spider Cam is brought to you by DirecTV. Mike Tirico, John Burton, Lisa Salters, glad you're with us. Monday number 3 of the season, and the Bears on top 17-3. Let's have Bilal Powell as one of the 2 men back deep to receive, along with Salim Hakeem. It'll come to their 3rd down back. Powell from 2 deep. Powell ran right up the back of Hakeem and returned to the 24. Some bizarre defensive looks in that series, John.
Very bizarre. Here's a boundary overload blitz. You see 3 defensive back splits on one side. They drop a defensive end and a linebacker on the other side. There's no containing. Jay Cutler slid the line into the blitz and took off running for a gain of 18 yards. And these are blitzes and defenses that you see where you try to fool a quarterback and try to help your young secondary, and so far it hasn't worked.
Chris Johnson in for the Jets, takes the handoff, gets hit by Jared Allen and Ryan Mundy, a gain of 3 yards. John alluded to it before, 2009, 6th best season in NFL history when he went for 2,006 yards. The production fell last year as Johnson had a torn meniscus that he played with the last 13 games with the Titans. At a career low, just under 4 yards a carry. And we've seen that home run speed. He's hit more 80-plus yard touchdown runs than anyone in league history, 6 of them. Geno Smith, nobody open. He's flushed. He throws on the run from the middle of the field. His tight end, Amaro, able to hang on at the 30-yard line. The rookie out of Texas Tech with a 44-yard gain.
Well, it all starts with pass protection. You put a lot of money into this defensive line if you're a Chicago Bear fan, and that time DeBrickashaw Ferguson at left tackle does a great job against Jared Allen. Geno Smith has plenty of time to break, contain, and Jason Amaro, 2nd-round draft choice, keeps the play alive. But DeBrickashaw Ferguson for years has anchored that left tackle position. He's throwing a shutout so far.
Goes down Smith, pocket collapses. Ivory out of the backfield. Hit hard as he gains 4 yards.
3rd time tonight, Geno has found Ivory on a check down. That time, good pursuit by the Bear defense. Look at these Jet substitutions. Different backs, different receivers. Offensive coordinator Marty Morningwig does an excellent job using his roster.
With 4 receivers, no tight ends, and Ivory is the back here on 2nd and 6. And in the quick hands of Curley. First down at the 15-yard line. Jeremy Curley at 5'9" has led this team in receptions the last 2 seasons.
These are nuisance plays. These read options with built-in bubble screens. He can hand it, he can keep it, or he can throw a built-in bubble screen, and Chicago doesn't defend the perimeter, and Curley hurts him on the edge.
Geno Smith threw that pick early on, but he's hit his last 8 passes. Since that interception, he's 9 of 10. Ivory trying to bounce to the outside, strung out, brought down. Isaiah Fry over there on the edge as the ball was fumbled out of bounds. Fry, John, he's the nickel back now because they had the injury to Charles Tillman, a terrific defensive back. That means Kyle Fuller, the corner, has to become, the nickel has to become a starting corner, and they're without Tillman for the rest of the season.
It's going to be awful hard to replace Tillman, but we were up there in training camp. Tillman's like a coach. He has really set a tone for a long time with this Bear defense, and these young corners, they don't want to let him down.
I feel like the Jets have to get a touchdown down here in the red zone. I know it's early, but this could go against them quickly. Cumberland at the 10 will make it 3rd and 5. Lance Briggs covering.
Doing a nice job changing the launching spot. 3-step drop, 5-step drop. We've seen some option plays to keep the Bears off balance. Here on 3rd down and 5, they stay in the no-huddle offense. Keep an eye on Decker, number 87. He'll be in the slot to your left. And David Nelson, their big wide receiver. They love double moves in the tight red zone.
5 for the first down, 10 for the touchdown. Smith stops, throws right into Stephen Paya, who was being blocked by Brian Winters, the left guard, and gets in the way of that 3rd down pass.
Well, they try to get Chris Johnson on a rail route out of the backfield. Keep an eye on Paya, left side of your screen. Lamar Houston with pressure. Paya gets his hands up. 2nd time tonight the Bears have rejected a Geno Smith pass.
So it's Folk, good from 43, now trying from 28. Back-to-back field goal drives for the Jets. Geno Smith is on a roll with that one incompletion with Paya breaking up the pass. Keeps the Jets from the end zone. The way the schedule's set up, you play teams from the other conference once every 4 years in the regular season. These teams last met day after Christmas in 2010, and the Bears won that one in Chicago, 38-34. The first time the Bears have been here to play the Jets since 2006. That was in the old Giants Stadium. It's now a parking lot. Folk boots it. Rashad Ross elevated from the practice squad this week. Will be shy of the 20 on his kickoff return. Well, you've known the Bears for years. Go back to the days when your parents had the black and white TV. The old school Bears, all about defense and the great names. They allowed the fewest points in the season 11 different times. Now it's new school, John. It's all different. It's HD, it's sharp, it's technology, it's modern. The Bears do it through the air. Such a sea change in a very short period of time. All those franchise marks set with the passing game last year.
I'd throw it too if I had these receivers.
Talent ending up on this side of the ball. Now Mark Trestman coaching in his 2nd year as the Bears head coach after his successful run, twice a champion coach in the Canadian League. The 18 out of the backfield is Matt Forte. Squared out of that tackle, gained about 4. Demario Davis with a stop.
Well, he's emerging as the leader of the Jets. 3rd rounder out of Arkansas State. Rarely comes off the field. Had 2 sacks last week against the Packers. Very good range. That time a nice open field one-on-one tackle. And Eben Britton, Mike, is checked back into the game as an eligible tight end, number 62. Try to give him a little bit of extra protection or added blocking at the point of attack with some size.
Time for Cutler and Forte out of the backfield. Back to back. He gets a first down at the 29-yard line. So Saturday we're sitting with the Jets and we're talking with Rex Ryan. Actually came on the bus and you interviewed him. And he said, I expect to see one more guy in protection than they show. That happens to me all the time because of those exotic blitzes that you talk about.
He didn't just blitz Aaron Rodgers last week. He blitzed him with everybody he had. He full blitzed him 12 times. And when you put that on tape, the opposing team that's coming in the next week normally loads up in protection.
That's what Mark Trestman said. Number one priority this week, as it is so many weeks, the protection plan. Cutler bumped off the spot, takes off, and turns a would-be sack into a gain of a yard. Sheldon Richardson almost had him in the backfield.
That's what these Jets need to do. They need to rely on some of these talented defensive linemen to make a sack. Go in there and wrap tackle Jay Cutler. And Cutler continues to escape with his legs and hurt the Jets.
Bushrod could have been called for a hold on that play as he was hooking the arm of Richardson, second-year man out of Missouri. After the gain of one, they do this a lot with Alshon Jeffrey. He comes around to get it. It'll be 3 yards shy of the first down. As Davis and DeJuan Landry, the safety, stop him, and Brandon Marshall's hurt for Chicago. And Marshall came into this game with an ankle injury, and he is in some discomfort down on the field.
Well, when you run the ball on the edge, your receivers sometimes have to sustain these blocks for a long time. Let's see if Marshall got rolled up here.
A ton of contact, but in some pain as they check his leg. Timeout. Medical staff talking to Brandon Marshall. They have been looking above that right ankle on the calf area, but that right ankle is the one that Marshall injured against Buffalo and limited him. Barely practiced this past week. He's out. Santonio Holmes, the other receiver, and for Chicago on 3rd and 3. Jets bring pressure, and it's almost intercepted as Richardson went up, deflected it, almost got his hands on it.
Sheldon Richardson, last year's Rookie of the Year on defense. An excellent athlete, did a lot of things at Missouri. Number 91, right side of your screen. He sees the ball released. He times his jump perfectly. Lucky that one wasn't intercepted.
Good pressure by Demario Davis. So halfway through the quarter, the rookie Patrick O'Donnell will punch it away. Jeremy Curley now goes back after the problems Jalen Saunders had. Punches 42. Curley got hit on the spot and brought down by Ahmad Dixon, who had a big special team stop last week as well for the Bears. Jets ball down 11. So Brandon Marshall walking back to the locker room, further examination. He watches his right foot, and that was the ankle we mentioned that had been bothering him. And as the pursuit's coming from David Harris, he gets Marshall in that ankle. And Marshall was in a lot of pain right away. They were looking at him on the Bears bench, and they'll examine him back in the locker room. Marshall has a catch in 117 consecutive games. None so far here tonight. Jets take over, 5th drive of the night from their own 23. Geno Smith, Jeremy Curley, gain of 16 for New York.
That's hard to do, I think. You're in the shotgun, you fake the ball across the formation and have to throw a timing slant. Well done by Geno Smith. And just watch him operating this no-huddle offense, Mike.
Down, quick toss. David Nelson the grab at the 45. He lost the football back out of bounds. Kyle Fuller. That's going to be a loss of 5 yards from where the forward progress was because it was a fumble out of bounds. We are both big fans of the rookie corner for the Bears.
Turnover machine. Last week he had 2 interceptions. That's bad ball security by David Nelson against the Bears. But don't think for a second that Kyle Fuller hasn't been listening to Charles Tillman for the last couple months. What a future he has. He is a vicious tackling corner for a young man. I like everything about him.
In motion speedster Salim Hakeem. They fake it to him. Young is chasing Geno. He's just going to bench it.
Willie Young unblocked on a bootleg. Had 2 sacks last week. Really ignited this Chicago Bear defense. The ex-Detroit Lion in Geno faces Geno Smith's face in a hurry. Nice work by Young.
Young had 15 starts in his 4 years with the Lions. First year here with Chicago. Beat Jonathan Martin of the 49ers. Really wrecked the game in the second half as the Bears came back to win. Now on 3rd and 9 with a 5-man rush. Smith has time and has the first down. And again it is Curley taking it this time into Chicago territory at the 44.
Bears come with a blitz and the New York Jet offensive line rejects it. From left tackle to right tackle, excellent pass protection, and once again, DeBrickashaw Ferguson is putting on a clinic tonight in one-on-one pass protection.
Chris Conti came out, the safety for the Bears. Danny McCray, a backup, is now in there at free safety. I'm going to give Chris Johnson up inside for about 2 yards.
This zone read is invading the NFL, Mike. I don't know if I like it or not, but it's a big part of pro football these days. It certainly regulates the defense. They have to be assignment oriented, and when you have to defend the dive, the pitch, the perimeter bubble screens, it's tough.
All the Jets backs communicate the change of the play, and on 2nd and 7, they switch it to a run for Johnson, and he has nowhere to go. There's the initial penetration by Jonathan Bostic, and now Jets are peeling Bears off the pile. And not a lot of happiness exchanged here.
That was a strange audible, Mike. They audible to an isolation right into the blitz, and here's a late flag. Blitz is going to come off your left side. You're going to see the safety rotate. Unblocked at the point of attack is McCray.
The play was over. Unsportsmanlike conduct. Defense, number 99. Disrespectfully addressing official. 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
So that's Willie, or rather Lamar Houston, I should say. You heard Jerome Boger say disrespectfully addressing official. There was a lot of conversation about would there be a certain list of words that you said that would get you in trouble this year. And they're penalizing the magic words. Abusive, threatening, insulting, player to player or player to official. And that was stated clearly in the video that came out, and all the players saw it during the year. And as Houston's addressing the official right there, enough is enough. And the flag is thrown.
Just walk away.
The umpire was the one who was getting the verbal abuse from Houston, and the flag was thrown for 15. Nearly intercepted by Fuller as Geno Smith was a little late behind that, and the pushing post-play continues at the 25-yard line with the Bears and Jets getting together.
Willie Colon, the right guard of the Jets. Very physical blocker, but take a look at Nelson wide open down the seam. Geno just missed the throw, but Willie Colon, number 66, a right guard, has a lot to say right now. He and Will Sutton have gone at it hard the last 2 plays.
There's Johnson. He spins it right around the 20-yard line to the 19. Brandon Marshall already in the Bears locker room, now joined by Tony Fiametta, the Bears fullback who heads off.
Right guard Willie Colon on a double team with Breno Giacomini, the ex-Seattle Seahawk. That's how you take care of business. You don't need to yell and scream. Just come off the ball and get good movement on a double team.
Bears making a late substitution. Jets at the line here. It's 3rd and 5. Smith throws middle, Curley. Oh, tough job to hang on for the touchdown.
That's big time by Geno Smith. Lamar Houston beaten down on a young quarterback. He stands in the face of pressure and throws a strike to Curley. Well done.
Danny McCray comes up and may have used that headgear in leading on the contact. That'll add 15 in the back end.
Unnecessary roughness. Contact on the defensive receiver, number 29. The 15-yard penalty will be enforced on the kickoff. The result of the play is a touchdown.
Did use the shoulder, but they say it was defenseless. In any case, an unbelievable job by the 5'9" Curley to hang on off that hit by McCray. And I told you earlier that Chris Conti, the safety, was out and McCray was in.
You got a new nickel, Isaiah Fry, a new safety, and you go right after him. Good play calling by Marty Morningwig, the offensive coordinator.
Jets, who trailed 14-0, are back in this one as it's now a 4-point game. Jeremy Curley, 5th-round pick in 2011. A productive few years here for the Jets. Well, John, the resiliency shown by Geno Smith, the first pass he threw, second play of the game, was an interception for touchdown. He's been very good since then.
Well, they're in a no-back set right here. You see Curley, no reroute whatsoever. He's screaming down the middle of the field, and the free safety's late to get there, but Geno Smith has shown a lot of mental toughness. He's taken a couple hits. You throw an early interception, the crowd is booing, you hang in there, and you've got the Jets right back in it.
A pop-up kick from the 50, trying to force a return and pin them inside the 10, but no return as it's fair caught by Rashad Ross. Lisa Salters.
Yeah, Mike, a couple of Bears injuries to update you on. First, fullback Tony Fiametta. He is out of the game with a hamstring injury. And also an update on Brandon Marshall. When he first came over to the sideline, we were told that his return to the game was probable. As you know, he is now back in the locker room, still there, and he's been downgraded. They are now telling us that his return to this game is questionable. Mike?
Okay, Lisa, so we'll keep watching for that. And, John, when you lose your fullback, that's a position where you don't have a number 2, so that removes some of the plays you have in there.
Certainly does. They're going to use Dante Rosario as the H-back in that role. You see him back there in front of Forte now.
From the 20, Cutler hit as he throws, almost intercepted by Demario Davis of the Jets. Muhammad Wilkerson bringing the heat for New York.
Well, it's a good thing that blitz got home because Bennett is running free down the middle of the field. Once again, it's Muhammad Wilkerson on the center, number 96. You see him on your left side, beating Bushrod on an inside move. Good work by Wilkerson, and that ball was slightly underthrown, and Demario Davis was able to deflect it. Jets continue to mix it up. Some of these looks I have not seen before.
On 2nd and 10, Cutler's pass complete to the 32-yard line to Alshon Jeffrey. John, on the defensive side, now Marshall's not out there. Can the Jets change their coverages a little bit because there's no Brandon Marshall for the moment?
Well, they certainly can. I think a lot of it depends on how healthy Santonio Holmes is. Holmes has had a history of doing some damage in this league as well.
Forte to the left. He'll gain about a yard. It's 5 carries for only about a yard total for Matt Forte here so far. Not a ton of a big surprise, I should say, to you in this game, John, because that's what the Jets do so well. That defensive front. Forte has not had it going in terms of the rushing thus far this year. 34 carries for 104 yards, including the 5 here tonight. Jets loading up to their left, Cutler's right. And man comes free, but Cutler gets it to Rosario, and a good job by the veteran who's played with multiple teams.
Overload blitzes. They come from the field, they come from the boundary. This time it comes from the right side of the screen. It's coming from the wide side of the field, and Jake Cutler's lucky he got rid of that ball. in time. Short yardage. The Jets love the old-fashioned Bear defense.
No fullback in there. Forte stretched it. Oh, man, did he keep those legs moving to get a first down. When you can take DeJuan Landry a few yards, that tells you how strong you are, because Landry is cut.
You aren't kidding, Mike. The old-fashioned 46 Bear defense. They covered the center, both guards. I think they went on a quick count before the Jets could get into their stance, and the veteran Forte takes us to the 2-minute drill with great effort.
2 minutes, first half. Bears 17, Jets 13. Similar number of plays. The Jets have 100 more yards of offense than the Bears. One of the big differences in the game, the second play of the game, Ryan Mundy intercepting Geno Smith in a 45-yard touchdown. Chicago leads 17-13. Cutler eludes Copels and completes it to Jeffrey down at the 45 of New York, first down.
What a play by Cutler. No one touched Copels. Not only did Cutler elude it, threw a fastball strike for the first down.
After the gain of 12, Jeffrey could not hang on as he was settling in the zone played by the Jets. Jeffrey didn't have a full practice week either. He has a hamstring problem. Got a couple of good days of work. Mark Trestman, the head coach, told us last night.
Timing is always an issue when you miss practice. Doesn't matter who you are. It affects timing in the passing game, and it's been a case twice tonight now.
Second and 10. Here comes the pressure up the middle. Cutler cannot get away from David Harris. The ball comes out, but he's ruled down. Cutler was ruled down as the ball spit out, and Demario Davis returned it for the touchdown.
This Rex Ryan is unbelievable. He's bluffing the blitz all night, and he'll tell you before the game, we will not disappoint you. We will bring everything we have. That's an old-fashioned jailbreak blitz. The Bears are short in pass protection, and that ball's out, Mike.
Ooh, that ball is coming out there. Now we're inside the last 2 minutes. Jets cannot challenge, and now the clock was running. Jerome Boger stops it.
The previous play is under review.
So it will be looked at upstairs with that ball coming out. As Cutler lost a bit of control of it coming out, it was recovered by the Jets. In a clear recovery there. You see it is coming out before. We'll watch for that left elbow coming down to the ground in the contact. Looks to be out. We think this is going to be Jets ball at the Bears 46 with 1:30 left. You can't give him the touchdown here. Jerry Austin, twice the Super Bowl referee, watching this replay with us in the booth.
The ball is out now. All he has is 1 foot on the ground, and he never regains control. The ball is blown dead as being down. Therefore, the ball is going to belong to the Jets at the spot of recovery.
In replay, they also have to see a clear recovery by the Jets, and as you saw, it was run down the field by Davis. Here's Jerome Boger with the ruling.
After reviewing the play, it is a fumble recovered by the Jets. It will be New York's ball, 1st and 10 on the 46-yard line. Please reset the game clock to 1:30 seconds.
That's a big play, and John, it was the pressure as David Harris came through to start that. And even though the whistle was blown, Davis kept playing and made sure he had the clear recovery to give New York the ball.
That's what the Jets need. They were last in the NFL in generating turnovers last year. That's huge. It sets up Geno Smith. Great field position. 3 timeouts left. But when you come with an all-out blitz, the offense is going to be a protector short. That time, it got home.
Never mentioned their names. Credit to Carl Madsen and Gene Cunningham. They're the replay official, the replay assistant upstairs. They stopped that play to make sure that it got looked at. And they did the right thing there. Maybe the Bears didn't do the right thing by not running a play right away. 1st and 10. New York at the Chicago 46. Smith is rolling. Looking to run here to slide down with no gain. Jets have the full complement of timeouts remaining. And they choose to let a lot of time leak down here.
Geno in complete control. Looks like he's on his own here. Trips to the field. They isolate Nelson into the boundary up top.
31 seconds. Second play of the drive. Smith about to get hit. Fires too tall for Curley. And incomplete. It was Lamar Houston who was about ready to bring Smith down before he threw it.
Second time the ex-Oakland Raider has applied pressure.
And on that rollover on the back end there, Smith, when he came out of the pile, as he's getting his Jets lined up here, was limping. Let's just watch him here on 3rd and 11. Smith in all kinds of trouble, just gets rid of it towards Powell. It's incomplete. He's got an eligible receiver there, so no grounding. But the Bears defense comes up big in that sudden change situation.
Left guard Brian Winters beaten badly by Stephen Paya. Take a look at number 67, left side of your screen. Paya with an inside move beats Winters badly, and there's nothing Geno can do. Very good sudden change defense by the Chicago Bears.
Credit to Mel Tucker, their defensive coordinator. Chicago comes up with a big stop, and Ryan Quigley will try to pin the Bears back. Their catch signaled by Santonio Holmes. He'll let it bounce, and it's a touchback. Bears get it at the 20. Then we get you to the Toyota halftime with Chris Berman. Of course, the big news of the day, the continuing off-the-field story, was Steve Bisciotti, the owner of the Ravens, holding a press conference responding to that ESPN.com Outside the Lines article. So you'll hear that, plus Chris Mortensen and Adam Schefter, all the news around the league and everything that happened today in sports and today on SportsCenter. All coming up on the Toyota halftime.
Interesting to see what Mark Trestman does here. No Brandon Marshall. Your fullback's out. You're missing 2 starting linemen, and the Jets have returned to their blitzing ways.
Under, March 5-2, ace. 2 timeouts remaining for the Bears with 40 seconds. Maybe a screen to see what can get you going. Or a draw, Forte. With not much, just a gain of 3. Neither side looking like we'll take a timeout. Looks like we'll take it to the locker room here. Well, it's a shame for the Jets. If that play was called correctly on the field, that's a touchdown for the Jets, and they are on top. They did have the opportunity when they got the ball back via replay, but couldn't convert.
Well, officiating's played a big part in this score. Remember, Walls, the corner, victimized on a big pass interference penalty, and that play you just spoke of has a lot to do with where we are.
So the Bears will try to continue their streak that they've done better than anybody in the league at the moment. Take a halftime lead and close it out with a win. They'll get the ball to start the second half. Here's Chris Berman with the Toyota halftime. Chris, and set for the second half here at MetLife Stadium in Chicago, leading 17-13. Jay Cutler only 107 yards. Jets got to him once, and that helped force a turnover, but the Jets couldn't capitalize. Geno Smith's 1 interception taken back for a touchdown. Mike Tirico, John Gruden, Lisa Salters. Offensively, Smith and the Jets are moving the ball pretty well.
Yes, they are. They just have to stay away from turnovers. Geno had the bad interception. They had 1 in special teams. That's been the Achilles heel of the Jets.
Bears are going to get the ball back. How important, if they had Brandon Marshall in this second half, will that be for both sides as they come up with their strategy?
I think it's big, Mike. I don't think the Bears can run the football against this Jet defense. They haven't done it. Only 7 carries for 7 yards. They need Marshall to offset Jeffrey so they can throw the football with some success. If he's not available, I expect the Jets to gang up on Jeffrey.
And the Jets' pressure package may increase, and certainly they'll be keeping an eye on that. We'll go to Lisa Salters for the injury update on Marshall as this third quarter gets underway.
Yeah, Mike, Mark Trestman just told me that he doesn't know much about Brandon Marshall's injury, but Coach has been told that Marshall is going to try to give it a go. He is going to go back into the ball game. Trestman says that he doesn't know how limited Marshall is or isn't. He said we're just going to throw the ball around and see what happens. Mike.
And here he marches on the field as there is no return by the Bears, and they kick off. Here's what they did in the first half.
Did a nice job mixing it up. They went to him a couple times in the red zone. They doubled him in and out. Pryor made a nice break on the ball. Even had Quentin Coples, an outside linebacker, go out there to reroute him and disrupt the timing with help over the top. Then they doubled him again. Safety in a corner, in and out, no catches. And then he re-aggravated an injury, and this Jet defense is back in the game.
And the Jets are playing without their corner, their first-round pick from last year, D. Milliner, who's injured here tonight. They get it to Jeffrey, coming around from his receiver spot. Get to the 27 at 7 first down yards.
And don't tell me Rex Ryan doesn't have a plan for Marshall. That time, they lined up Calvin Pace, an outside linebacker, out there on Brandon Marshall. They do not want Marshall to impact this game as he did last Sunday in San Francisco. That message is loud and clear. If you're going to beat us, somebody else is going to have to do it.
Rare to see Kadeem Carey in the game, just the 5th snap of the year for Matt Forte's backup next to Cutler. And Cutler taking a shot for Jeffrey. Jeffrey brings it in. Out of bounds at the 29 in front of Antonio Allen. 44 on the catch.
And when you have two bad ball receivers, you are miserable to defend. Jets doing a nice job taking Marshall away. That time it's Jeffrey running right by Antonio Allen, and Jay Cutler does what he did last week against the 49ers. He comes out of the locker room to start the third quarter, and he shreds them.
Mark him at the 31 instead of the 29, so it's officially 42 for Alshon Jeffrey. 3rd year out of South Carolina. What a talent. Cutler just letting rip here. It is Forte with a lot of space to the 12-yard line. And just like that, Bears are in the red zone.
That's complete control of this offense. Cutler comes out of the fake. He's going to look left and look off these New York Jet defenders. Watch him look left and then just kick the ball to Forte. Great understanding of this passing game. He knows where the primaries are. He knows where the checkdowns are, and he has a clock in his head. He knows when to get rid of it. Well done.
Josh Morgan is the receiver in the slot near side with Marshall at the bottom of the screen. Jets show and bring heat as Cutler goes to Marshall. Got the feet down. Held on. Touchdown, Chicago.
You're playing with fire when you play man-to-man coverage.
A flag down back by Cutler.
Especially when it's against these two receivers.
Illegal hands to the face. Offense, number 7. 10-yard penalty. Replay, first down.
Michael Ola, who's filling in at left guard for Matt Slauson, number 70. Take a look at him. Hands to the face. Good call.
Got Sheldon Richardson as he was coming in, trying to pick him up a bit late.
So you got to be real careful. Antonio Allen has been beaten badly twice. One by Jeffrey and one by Marshall. There's the two linemen there.
Matt Slauson in the beard, Roberto Garza in front. The two starting linemen who are out by Michael Ola and Brian De La Puente on the left guard and center respectively. But a big flag on the rookie out of Hampton there. Push the Bears back to the 22. Jeffrey. Good job to hang on for dear life by Allen before the hustling defensive lineman Sheldon Richardson made the stop.
This Jet team has a lot of courage. They continue to blitz. That time, watch these three receivers come out of the bunch. They all go in different directions, and these Jet defensive backs match it perfectly. Man-to-man coverage with pressure to start the third quarter. Let's see if Rex backs down or continues to bring it.
Three receivers to the top. The tight end Bennett to the bottom. There are 5 in the pattern. Forte. Oh, that's a saver. Antonio Allen. Otherwise, Forte at least had a first down and maybe would have scored.
Just a great play by Antonio Allen. It's another jailbreak, all-out blitz. Somebody has to go get that screening back, and if Antonio Allen doesn't fight through traffic to make that one-on-one tackle, it walks.
They can get a first down at the 2.
Be shocked if he brings another blitz in this down and distance.
Taking 5, end zone touchdown Bennett. Martellus for the second time tonight.
Blown coverage. 24, Phillip Adams. Receivers.
Wow.
Intersect, stacked release. They blow the coverage, and Phillip Adams beaten badly. That was easy.
Second game of Bennett's career that he has scored multiple touchdowns. Robbie Gould adds the extra point. The Bears get 5 for 5 on the drive from Cutler. Take the second half kickoff 80 yards. Take an 11-point lead. ESPN's Monday Night Football brought to you by Autotrader.com. Land a great deal on your perfect car at Autotrader.com. ESPNFanshop.com, powered by Dick's Sporting Goods. And AT&T, mobilizing your world. We're behind the scenes here in MetLife Stadium. And the Jets trying to figure out what was going on. And, John, I did a double take when I saw Phillip Adams in coverage. We mentioned the Jets' injuries in the secondary. According to my numbers, Allen had not played a snap of defense at all this season, those first 2 games, or in the first half there, out there in that key moment. And the communication breakdown leads to a Bears touchdown. A lot of hang time, but it will be returned by Salim Akeem. And a good hang time and placement will keep the Jets shy of the 20-yard line. Jake Cutler, give me pressure. Give me my big receivers. Give me an 11-point lead. Bears starting safety Ryan Mundy, who has an interception return for a touchdown here tonight. Shaken up on that play. Bears medical staff out looking at him, and now we see him being helped up and helped off as he was in there tackling Salim Akeem. One of his own players ends up getting him. It's Kasim Green. And Mundy able to walk off under his own power. That interception in the first minute. It's the first time there's been a pick 6 in the first minute of a Monday Night Football game. 697th Monday night game. It's the first time somebody's taken an interception back for a touchdown inside that opening minute of the game. See, Danny McCray, he had to play at the end of the first half because of the injury to Chris Conte. Conte is back for the Bears. Now McCray has to play the other safety as Mundy's out momentarily. See, Geno Smith had a good first half. These Jets down 11. That pass is inbounds. It's a fumble. And did the Bear player reestablish inbounds? I don't think he came back inbounds. It should stay with the Jets. Yes. The Bears do recover, but he's got to come back inbounds. He's on the white when he recovered, so it's still Jets ball.
Somebody's got to tell David Nelson to hang on to the ball. That's the second time he's carried the ball loosely away from his body, and guess who punched it out again? Fuller.
Is that the football was recovered by a player with his foot out of bounds. Second down.
And it was Williams sliding in, about to get it as well. And Fuller with his foot out of bounds. But as you said, John, it is exceptional play there. Big hit that time by Williams. The Bears bringing some heat here as they've limited the Jets' rushing attack with Chris Johnson. What was Mundy telling us? Yes, or it was, I'm sorry, it was Lance Briggs who told us that with all these young corners, sometimes you have to find a tape of a guy from 5 or 8 years ago and show the way to play cornerback. You just watch week 1 and 2 of Charles Tillman playing, and Fuller has been in Tillman's hip pocket right from when he got to the Bears camp. And Tillman now can only watch and support. He's got to be proud of what he's seen from Kyle Fuller. Tim Jennings, the other corner for the Bears, veteran. 3rd and 2 for Geno Smith, who throws, and it's behind the tight end Amaro. Couldn't stop and catch it. That's a 3 and out for the Jets. Didn't have Eric Decker on that drive, and he re-aggravated his hamstring injury late first half.
Coming left to right. Open receiver. Don't think Lance Briggs got his hand on it. That ball should be caught. Here's Holmes.
Ex-Jet would love to take one back here. Looking over to the sideline, get some guidance as Ryan Quigley gets set to kick it away. Deep kick, room for Holmes. 55 yards on the kick. Santonio Holmes cuts back inside. Flags come down as Holmes is pushed out of bounds at the 45. Former Super Bowl MVP. Success with Pittsburgh. 4 tumultuous years with the Jets. Some success, but did not end well last year. Let go, and the Bears pick him up in August this year.
During the return, illegal block in the back. Receiving team, number 59. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. Chicago keeps the ball. First down, timeout.
28-yard punt return by Holmes, erased on the flag right there. Get a look at the Freedom Tower in Lower Manhattan on this Monday night. 9/11 Memorial over there as well. You see the footprint of those 2 World Trade Center towers. Bears take over from the 20. And the sack, the combination of Wilkerson and Demario Davis getting Cutler for the big loss of 10.
Jet defense continues to blitz. And when you blitz, sometimes you create a one-on-one for an excellent pass rusher left side of your screen. I think the Bears made a mistake in pass protection. Wilkerson unblocked. Gets to Jake Cutler. Got to be real careful when you're way behind in the chains against this Jet defense. You have no idea what the alignment is going to be. Cutler's got to use his snap count and try to decipher the protection to use.
Swinging it out to Forte. Big first hit by Davis limits the gain to a couple. Well, a 3rd and long coming up, and the Jets, their offense has gone 3 and out the last 2 trips. They could really use one on the defensive side.
That was almost a lateral there. Jake Cutler's got to get up to the line of scrimmage quickly and use his snap count to read the deployment of the Jets and make sure that he's aware of any overloads and blitzes. And it looks like there's pressure coming again.
Good snap to Cutler, swinging it out, caught by Holmes, and not going to go very far. So the Jets defense gets the job done, and Chicago will punt it away.
Credit to Antonio Allen. He's made a couple impact tackles. Got beaten coverage in that last series that time. He makes a nice open field on Santonio Holmes, and let's see if Jeremy Curley can set the Jets up.
Curley, who's had as many fair catches as punt returns during his career, sure-handed. Jets bring pressure up the middle and almost got to Patrick O'Donnell. And Curley with another fair catch. This one coming at the 37-yard line. Former Jet Santonio Holmes trying to make a 3rd down play. Antonio Allen comes up with a stop for New York. Well, John, Geno Smith in his 2nd year, starter since his first game, comes from West Virginia where he played in Dana Holgerson's offense. This is a very different offense.
Yes, it is. Very good offense, don't get me wrong, but in Dana Holgerson's spread system, there aren't many plays. You saw that sideline sheet. Compare that to this sideline sheet. I mean, this West Coast offense that Marty Morningwing runs has hundreds of plays, protections, and audibles.
Smith buying time, looking for Cumberland, his tight end. That pass a bit too long and too high and incomplete.
But all these plays require reps, and Geno Smith finally got a full off season. He got a full training camp, and all these reps have added up, and you see progress. You still see some areas that are rough around the edges that he needs to improve, but he's an athletic quarterback. He's got mental toughness. They have improved the supporting cast, but I think they can continue to do that as well.
Look at the talent around Smith on the offensive side, adding Chris Johnson this year in the backfield to go with Chris Ivory, and this is Ivory with a run up the middle. He gets knocked down by Danny McCray, but he's got a first down in Bears territory at the 45, and the Bear is injured back there behind the play. It's Conti, the safety again. So both Bears starting safeties, Mundy and now Conti, shaken up.
This is a rolling ball of butcher knives. It's all knees and elbows. He runs right over safeties, linebackers, and he moves the piles repeatedly. And Chris Ivory can wear you out physically. Let's hope Conti is all right.
Remember, Conti was coming in the game with a left shoulder problem. He had to come out of the San Francisco game after a great interception, too, with a shoulder injury. Had to come out earlier in the game because of the shoulder.
And Vereen, the rookie, has just checked in. The Chicago Bears are decimated with injuries at the safety position. There's Vereen. He played corner and safety at Minnesota. Last week I saw him playing the nickel corner. This young man's played more positions in 3 weeks than most guys play in a lifetime.
Rookie out of Minnesota, 4th round pick, who's in the game. Smith gives to Ivory, spinning and turning inside the 40 and down to the 39, a first down gain of a half dozen.
This kid runs the rock. And they have a lot of good backs here. Chris Johnson, you've talked about. I think Bilal Powell's an outstanding back, but a lot of the yardage he accumulates is after that first contact.
After contact, he was 5th last year in the NFL John yards after contact. Top of that list early this year. Curley with the catch inside the 30 to the 28-yard line. First down for the Jets. Down 11 with 6.5 in the third.
And when you can run the ball like they've run it with Chris Ivory, the play action pass has a lot of sting. That time Geno fakes it to Ivory. He pops it to Curley, who's open over the ball, and Curley does a nice job after the catch.
Bears have 5 DBs. 4 of them are not week 1 starters, and we're only in week 3. 2 new safeties. The nickel back is moved to corner, and there's a different nickel back in there. 1st and 10. They'll run it inside with Ivory for a gain of 2 yards. Take me to the sidelines here in the coach's box upstairs. When you see there are 2 new safeties in the game, what's the communication on the coach's headsets?
Well, if I'm the Jets, I'm going to speed up the tempo and try to limit the communication and see what these guys know about their defense. See if they can play without any assistance from the sideline, and that's just what Marty Morningwig is doing for this Jet offense.
2nd and 8 for Smith. Got time. Throws it. Complete to David Nelson in front of Kyle Fuller. That's a first down for the Jets in the red zone.
I look out in that Bear huddle, Mike, to your point. Lance Briggs, the veteran linebacker who's played forever, has got to try to organize these troops. Nice timing pattern to the outside by Nelson. But I guarantee you, Briggs doesn't even know half of these Bears names. I tell you, these are all players that he has no playing history with, hardly at all.
He said that to us last night. I introduced myself to Ego Ferguson 3 times. You're Ego again, right?
Will Sutton.
Down 11. Smith looking deep. Good job back there. Now he moves and he throws. And it's intercepted by Fuller. His 3rd in 2 weeks. Perhaps ill-advised to bring it out. But still, it takes a scoring opportunity away from the Jets. There is a flag down at the end of the play.
It's the inconsistencies of Geno Smith that create doubt in this franchise. It's an awful decision, but he jumped when he threw it. He had nothing on it. And you have to know where you're throwing the football.
After the play was over, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, passing team, number 74. 15-yard penalty from the dead ball spot. Chicago keeps the ball. First down.
And Fuller's decision to come out is helped out because it brings the ball to the 20-yard line.
Kyle Fuller in prime time 2 weeks in a row has shown up big. But this ball is a terrible decision late down the middle, and Geno didn't even have 2 feet on the ground when he threw it. But you're right, Fuller should have stayed in bounds. Poor mechanics, poor decision, and poor results. And the third turnover of the night. And the Jets turned the ball over as much as any franchise in football over the last 3 years.
Cutler and the Bears get the ball back, and they'll move it back 5. Jermon Bushrod, false start.
False start. Offense, number 74. 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
What they say, it was Mel Tucker, the defensive coordinator last night, who told us about Fuller. He could have played in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, old school, from a great football family. All the brothers, one who's retired from the NFL, one currently playing along with Kyle, and then a younger brother at Virginia Tech. All played for Frank Beamer, all well coached. Bud Foster, the tremendous defensive coordinator for Virginia Tech. Turning a great pro. Jeffrey went up, couldn't get the second foot down. Out of bounds and incomplete.
You see what Jay Cutler's doing. He sees the late rotation in the secondary. He knows Antonio Allen has no help over the top. And Allen's running out of there. He's trying to play conservative, but Cutler couldn't care less. He knows he has an acrobat that's 6'4" with a wingspan that can pull it down. And good call by the official, but I'd be real careful if I was Antonio Allen. That's the third time in the third quarter they've targeted him deep.
Cutler saying, guys, I need it now. He's got it, and he's going to go down. Sheldon Richardson and DeMario Davis.
Sons of Anarchy. Wilkerson, Richardson, Harrison. That time it's Sheldon Richardson coming off your left side. Watch Bushrod, number 74, gets beat on a power rush, and there's help from Jason Babin as well. Third down and a long way to go.
Have to get to the 30. Jets will bring 4. Cutler got the back of the ball hit as he threw it. Allen couldn't pick it off. Wow, that's a killer there for the Jets. Quentin Coples, I'm pretty sure, got the back end of the ball as Cutler was just about to release, and that knuckleball could not be pulled down by Allen.
Defensive backfield coach Tim McDonald says Allen has outstanding ball skills. Sometimes you start running before you secure the catch, you take your eyes off the ball. That was as easy as it will ever be for Antonio Allen.
Patrick O'Donnell with the punt. Not good. Curley saying, I got it. Fair catch. He's bumped. That's a flag. It'll go from the 44 to the 29-yard line.
Terrell McClain, that is not smart football. Clearly a fair catch by Curley, and that'll be a big penalty. Manning, that is. Manning was just activated for this game, and
After the catch, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, kicking team, number 53. 15-yard penalty. New York keeps the ball. First down. Timeout.
The Jets will get the ball in great field position. They almost had the ball without the punt, as Antonio Allen said, I had my hands on an INT. Couldn't reel it in. Bears without Chris Conte the rest of the game. Starting safety with a shoulder injury. He's done for the evening. Up the middle of the run for Chris Ivory, and the Jets will take advantage of the good field position here at the back end of the third to try to cut into this 11-point lead.
look, I like what I see from Ivory. I mean, the Bears broke a franchise record for futility defending the run. Chris Ivory is running the ball effectively. I'd continue to feature the big back.
Jets have 18 runs tonight, John, for 81 yards. Chase Amaro, the rookie tight end, is the motion man, designed run for the quarterback. Ivory with a great block. Springs Smith to the 12-yard line.
That's a direct run. And guess who the lead blocker is? Chris Ivory, and he lays some lumber. Watch this lead block on this direct run by Geno Smith. Pow! How about that elusiveness?
Gets Lance Briggs on the block. We'll mark it officially at the 10. Since he didn't slide, he got the complete yardage from where he went down and was touched. First and goal, Jets. In the middle of the line, wouldn't let anything happen there. Led by Will Sutton, the rookie. When the Bears try to remake this line, because John told you how bad they were running the ball last year, they brought in free agents like Lamar Houston and Willie Young and Jared Allen to help pass rush. And inside, they brought in 2 rookies, Ego Ferguson and the man you just saw, Sutton. Try to help Briggs and the rest of the defense shore up against the run. Quick count. Smith, Ivory with blockers. 10, 5 to the 3-yard line.
That's a screen pass with lead blockers. This well-designed play. Watch Bohannon 40. Watch 85 Cumberland. They'll be the lead blockers. They're going to reverse pivot. Just dropped a little bluff screen to the halfback, and Chris Ivory is running hard. Let's see if the Jets have a receiver that can mismatch one of the Bear corners down in the tight red zone. They're limited with Greg Salas and Jeremy Curley, 2 smaller size wideouts on the edge.
How about they just run it? Smith design run. Ball comes out late. Whistle blows it, ruling him down by contact. The Jets should go for a field goal here to make it a 1-possession game, and they will.
For the life of me, I don't understand that call. You have Chris Ivory, who's running extremely hard, and you go with a direct shotgun run with a quarterback. Geno Smith with Brian Winters pulling. This is a power play against an all-out blitz, and your quarterback is the ball carrier. It fooled nobody.
Nick Folk has made 43 and 28-yard field goals here tonight. And a challenge flag thrown by Mark Trestman, as the Bears got a look at that, and they want to see if that ball came out. Ripping at the ball. Smith, his knee comes down. Looks like the ball came down. It came out after the knee came down. You also have the forward progress issue, so maybe he won't even be able to challenge, and that's why 4 officials are conferring with Trestman now. The forward progress or not, I think that knee is down there before the ball comes free.
There is no challenge. The rule on the field was that the runner's forward progress was stopped and was being driven back prior to the ball coming loose. This aspect cannot be challenged. 4th down.
So Trestman retains his challenges. Nick Folk is asking Jerome Boger to reset the play clock, pump it back up to 25. He was down at 5. And the game clock restarts. And Folk for his 3rd field goal of the night. Three for 3 on the evening for Folk, 6 for 6 on the year. It's a 1-score game. From New York City, we'll go to Kansas City next Monday night. Countdown gets you going at 6 Eastern. Then we'll have the Patriots and the Chiefs. Tom Brady and the Patriots survived that game against Oakland last week. A quality last 3 quarters by Kansas City in Miami. Almost smell the barbecue in the parking lot at Arrowhead. Great tailgate spots and great scenes in the league. We haven't been there on a Monday night the last couple of years, so look forward to KC this time next week. Eight-point game. Nick Folk kicks to Rashad Ross. It's a short kick, and it has to be fielded by Dante Rosario. Back up tight end to the 25-yard line. Getting this hit there.
Well, the Jets have wanted to play some blitz coverage, some one-on-one at times with Antonio Allen, and Cutler is looking for it. Threw a perfect deep strike to Alshon Jeffrey. Then he threw a touchdown pass against Antonio Allen to Brandon Marshall. Was called back. Hands to the face on their left guard, and then Phillip Adams comes into the game, doesn't execute a switch. Lack of secondary people has hurt the Jets this season. Antonio Allen dropped an interception on the last possession, and Quentin Coples lines up in Brandon Marshall's face again at the bottom of the screen.
Drive start from the 25. It's been a quiet night on the ground for Forte. He'll gain 3. Matt Forte will be 8 carries for 10 yards as we've come through 3 quarters. After 3 here at MetLife Stadium, pair of 1-1 teams. The Bears 24, Jets 16 on Monday Night Football.
ESPN, celebrating 45 years of Monday Night Football.
In 3, 2, 1. Take. Welcome to ABC's Monday Night Primetime National Football League television series.
44 years and a day ago, the reigning Super Bowl champion Jets went to Cleveland by the lake there and lost 31-21. That was the first Monday Night Football game. This is the 45th season of Monday Night Football, but the Jets were a part of that very first game. And in the booth that night, Keith Jackson, Howard Cosell, and Don Meredith. Of course, Keith did the first year of Monday Night Football, then Frank Gifford, Al Michaels after that. And hello to Keith. I got a chance to talk to Keith earlier today by phone. He's out in California. He and his wife, Turianne, doing great as ever. It's so good to hear Keith's voice as Forte carries for a yard or 2 as we begin this 4th quarter. I know both of us just honored to be a part of the legacy of Monday Night Football and all the great people who've been a part of covering the NFL here on Monday nights over these 45 seasons.
Really am, Mike. It's an honor, and those are big shoes to fill. Those are 3 legends right there.
They named the broadcast school at Washington State. It's the Edward R. Murrow School, but the broadcast building's named Keith Jackson Hall. Deserved honor there. 3rd and 5 for Jay Cutler and the Bears. Hanging on to this 8-point lead, and the pressure comes again as Cutler throws for Holmes, who's covered by Darren Walls. And this Jets defense stabilizing here, John, in this second half.
No idea what the coverage is. I mean, Rex Ryan, this defensive staff, look at these 3 defenders on the back end. You don't know what the coverage is. Like Mark Trestman told us, you see overload blitzes, bail blitzes, boundary blitzes, and they have no tendencies, none. And the Jets have crept back into this game.
Patrick O'Donnell to kick it away. 46 on the kick from the 25. Turley turns it upfield. Climbed through for 10 yards. So the Bears have gone 3 and out 3 straight times. And Geno Smith and the Jets will try to come out and tie the game.
Geno's been up and down. It started on a dark note. He picked it up, then he threw another interception in the red zone. But first play of the game, fakes a screen to his left, throws an interception to his right, and it was run back for a touchdown. And then you see him escape to his left. He's off balance. He's late. Another interception. That's taking points off the board, and let's see if he can put something together.
Chris Johnson couldn't hang on. Man, did he have a lot of room.
That throw. Chris should handle that throw, but Geno jabbed that one low. Bad trajectory, and clearly the young quarterback is frustrated. He's got a good pocket to throw from. Chris should catch that ball, but I thought it was a brick.
Remember Smith, John, working in the second half without Eric Decker. That hamstring that has bothered him since training camp, re-aggravated in Green Bay last week. Aggravated again this week. It's a direct snap this time to Johnson. He takes it to the 41-yard line. And the Jets do a lot on offense, so much so that you wonder, where do they hang their hat? What is the base of what they do?
I don't know. I've seen Michael Vick play tonight on a direct run. I've seen a wildcat run now. Direct snap runs to Geno Smith. We've seen read option, pitch plays. And on 3rd down and 3, they need to find a way to get a first down, and they're limited at the receiver position with Decker out.
Zach Sudfeld, their 3rd tight end, is up in the bunch at the top of the screen. Chris Johnson joins them out there. Underneath, Sudfeld. First down at the 44 for number 44. 6th catch of his NFL career.
They motion to an empty backfield set. 4 receivers to the right, 1 to the left. And Chicago didn't pick up Sudfeld on this little under route. Cumberland might have got away with a pick there on Lance Briggs, but that was a confusing formation again.
Zach's brother Nate led Indiana's big win this past week. Good football family there. Johnson hit hard as he gets 4 yards. John, we see a guy like Sudfeld, the 3rd tight end, come in and make that play there. Sometimes that deception is frustrating with this Jets offense, but they maximize players. If they have a small role, they find something for you to do if you're dressed for the game.
And it's refreshing to me. I see so many of these no-huddle offenses playing the same personnel every play. Marty Morningwig, he's got ships coming throughout the night, all night.
Jets at the Chicago 40, down 8. Sideline toss, Salas with the catch. There's another one of those. What'd you call those guys back in the day? LRPs?
Limited role players.
Right.
You know, if you got a guy that can block a defensive end, put him in the game. If you got a guy that can run a double move, put him in. But Salas is playing one position. Nelson is playing the other. Decker is out. This Jet receiving core has been depleted for the last few years, and that continues.
3rd and very short. Keeper Smith, flag down, first down. Where's the Jets formation set? With enough guys in the right spots on the line. Let's see. They went quick. I took a quick peek up there. I was starting to count the players on the line.
Illegal formation. Offense. There were only 6 men on the line of scrimmage. Number 86 was lined up in the backfield. 5-yard penalty. Replay 3rd down.
And that's where sometimes all those smoke and mirrors can break on you.
It's a terrible penalty. You go on a quick count. You have to be organized. You have to have 7 men on the line of scrimmage. He's got to get up on the line of scrimmage.
Funny, look at that one, John. They might have been okay. They might have had enough on the line of scrimmage. Now we look at that. It's 3rd down anyway. Smith throws. Amaro, the rookie, got there. First down, Jace Amaro, the 2nd-round pick out of Texas Tech. And the Jets keep the drive alive.
Geno Smith gets hit by Jared Allen late. Just a tight end delay, shallow cross, and Smith had enough time to unload it with Jared Allen beating down on him. Nice job getting the first down by the young tight end. Take a look at Jared Allen working against the Brickishaw Ferguson. That almost looked a little late.
The 32. Smith with time. Throws. A good catch by Curley. He's had a nice night here for the Jets. A gain of about 7 on first down.
And Chicago continues to play zone coverage. 3 deep, 4 underneath. Not a lot of mystery blitzes from these Bears. And the up-tempo from the Jets continue. Let's see if the Bears heat them up.
25. Bohannon leading the way, the fullback. Chris Johnson trying to spin away from one tackle. Look at the Bears pursue to the ball. It looks like the way the Bears captain finished plays off a couple of years ago.
Nice job by Lance Briggs. Shooting a gap. They blitz him. Or actually, that's Bostic. And it's a good run fit by these Bears. Once again, Fuller, 23. He shows up. Whoever has the ball, expect 23 Fuller to show up around it.
3rd and short. Bilal Powell now in there for the Jets. Smith firing middle, deflected for Cumberland, who had 3 Jets with him, or 3 Bears with him. Jonathan Bostic deflected it as Jared Allen put on the pressure. Here comes another Folk field goal attempt.
They're asking a lot of Geno Smith on that play. It's a bootleg to his left. They do not block Jared Allen. And Allen plays it perfectly. He's in Geno's face in a hurry. He's got to stop, pop, and make a quick delivery, and he's lucky that one wasn't intercepted. Nice play by the veteran Jared Allen.
This one's 42 yards. And he hooks it in. This clean operation started outside the pipes, but turns in. 5-point game. ESPN's Monday Night Football, brought to you by the world's most flyer-friendly airline, United. Fly the friendly skies. NFL.com/now. Watch the biggest library of NFL videos anywhere. Free. And Navy Federals, serving the armed forces and their families. Back here across the Hudson River in New Jersey, where the Giants were winners yesterday over Houston, and now Geno Smith trying to lead the Jets to a comeback. They trailed 14-0, 5 minutes and 6 seconds into this one. And now they are within 5. The Folk kickoff again. Rosario takes it and he pitches it back. And it's returned by Rashad Ross across the 25-yard line. It's where Cutler and the Bears will take over. Every week, what's your plan? Don't let the big star beat you. Brandon Marshall's the star on the Chicago team. Targeted 4 times, has missed some time with the ankle injury. No receptions. Alshon Jeffrey has brought in 6 passes. Marshall remains on the sideline here at the start of this drive. Chicago from its own 27. Cutler complete. Tight end Martellus Bennett almost gets a first down. Close to it at 37. John, they haven't picked up a first down the last 3 drives.
No, they have not, and credit that to the Jets. They've had 2 sacks. They've committed a couple penalties, the Bears have. They've fallen way behind in the down and distance, and that's not a good thing to do against this Jet defense.
We get the first down here with Forte backing across the 40 and to the 41-yard line.
But this is the time of the game when Rex Ryan blitzes. He creates pressure by blitzing, and he trusts his defensive backs to cover on the back end. This is crunch time. These are the times when Rex Ryan heats you up. Let's see if Allen, number 39, and Walls, number 30, can go from being a contingency man to the future plan here at corner.
Jets have gotten sacks on each of the last 2 drives. And they only rushed 4, and Cutler pass incomplete as Walls comes up to break it up.
That's what you have to do. You get an opportunity to play, you answer the bell. Nice job in transition. He read the route all the way. Clearly Marshall is not 100%. Good break on the ball by Walls. Again, 2nd and long. Expect another blitz of some kind from Rex Ryan's Jets.
Coming off the corner this time, and go behind it with Jeffrey. Great open field play. It's the 2nd time that Antonio Allen, a 7th-round pick a couple of years ago, has done that.
That makes me proud. I'm not even a Jet. Coach, what a play. Back-to-back plays by these Jet corners. Walls against Marshall, and then it's Allen against Jeffrey. 3rd down and long. Bennett missed the block. Adams, number 24, is checked back in the game, and he lines up on Brandon Marshall in the slot.
Play clock at 3 and 2. Need to get across midfield. Cutler puts it up for Jeffrey, who's got it at the 45-yard line.
I knew Rex Ryan was going to bring the house, and he did. Third down and long. All-out blitz. It's one-on-one coverage on the back end. These defensive backs have no help. Again, they use a switch release, and Jeffrey uses that wingspan to beat Antonio Allen. Great call by Mark Trestman. I love the design and the way he's switching the releases of these receivers. How about that throw by Jay Cutler under fire? Gosh, Marshall can go get it.
Jeffrey over 100 yards.
Jeffrey, I should say.
You see Marshall do that so many times.
Telling you.
Marshall still without a catch. Forte spins. He'll get 2. And here at 7 minutes, you start thinking you're down to your last couple of possessions. Imperative for the Jets to limit the Bears to a field goal to keep their hopes alive of winning this game if they can't stop them altogether.
There's just been nowhere for Forte to run tonight. That's 11 carries for 19 yards. The Bears have been one-dimensional now for almost 8 consecutive quarters. I think Cutler's going to have to throw the football to win. Once again, it's Antonio Allen one-on-one at the bottom of the screen against Marshall.
2nd and 8. Jets bring pressure again. Cutler, there's a Marshall catch. The first time tonight. Couple shy of the first down. Marshall continues to play through the pain.
Chicago has done an excellent job picking up blitzes, and that's the priority of Mark Trestman. One-on-one coverage, it's a simple slant route. Marshall has his first catch, but it's a good wrap tackle by Allen. But it's the protection plan of the Bears. It's every meeting, every walkthrough, every practice, every play. Let's see if the Bears can give it their best protection when they need it the most, because the Jets are going to bring it.
Third and 2. They go quick. Forte to the edge. Got the edge. Got the first down. Inside the 30-yard line with 5.5 to go. And the left tackle Bushrod on the edge with a good block.
What a great call by Mark Trestman. And you use your Pro Bowl tackle on a bunch crunch. You block down with the 2 receivers. You pull your left tackle and you get the ball to Forte, who has made 3 great short yardage conversions tonight.
Only a couple of first downs via the run for the Bears. That a huge one against Muhammad Wilkerson and this Jets defense.
1-2, 1-6 is Mark.
Inside of 5 minutes now. And Forte. Rookie Calvin Pryor made the tackle.
This center, Brian De La Puente, is undersized. He's been cut 7 or 8 times in this league. He ended up sticking with the Saints to start 44 games, but that's the 3rd very good block I've seen De La Puente throw. And he's out there in relief of Roberto Garza. What a nice job he's done tonight against a litany of looks.
There's Garza. Forte, who rarely comes off the field, is off. And second snap of the night, 6th in the first 3 weeks for Kadeem Carey, the rookie out of Arizona, who's got it in a big spot here. And is stopped. It's another big hit from Dewan Landry.
Dewan Landry, serious spinal cord injury a few years ago. Some thought he'd never play again. He started 82 straight games. He's the mentor of this young Jets secondary. That time a great one-on-one tackle against the rookie. But 3rd down and 4. Got to make something happen if you're the New York Jets. That means blitz.
Cutler got away from one, not the second one.
Some of these looks I can't even draw on a card.
Wilkerson got the worst of that as Pace and Wilkerson were converging on Cutler. They got Jay, but they also got each other. And the Jets' top defender, their MVP last year, slow to get up. And the athletic training staff will come check him out.
His right shoulder, Mike.
At full speed, he ran into the shoulder of Pace. Groggy as he got up. And players on both sides. And the concern for Wilkerson as he sits up. Even the Bears players down there too. Injury timeout. Be right back for 4th down. Muhammad Wilkerson walked off with the assistance of the training staff. 3:14 left. And 4th and 8, and the Jets take a timeout. The reason the Jets take a timeout there after the injury is because the play clock was at 30 seconds. The Bears could have run it down to 2:34, 2:44, I should say. And so the Jets trying to maintain the time on the clock here, burn a timeout.
Mike, there's been 2 key plays in this game by the officials. Don't forget, earlier in this game, Cutler threw a bomb down the field to Alshon Jeffrey, and I thought Walls had perfect coverage. If anything, I thought the penalty was on Jeffrey. And then Cutler fumbles the ball, and Mario Davis picks it up and runs it back for a touchdown. It was ruled a fumble, but they blew the play dead.
Gold from 45. And one of the top kickers in the history of the league hits another one. Robbie Gould, 3rd all-time in accuracy, doing so much of that kicking in the bad weather of Chicago. Makes the lead 8. Coverage from Spider Cam tonight is brought to you by DirecTV. Temperatures falling into the mid-50s on this partly cloudy night. Summer's turned into autumn, and the Jets are going to try to take the ball down the field and tie this game. Down 8 with 3:10 remaining. And it's a place Geno Smith was often last year, needing to bring the Jets back from a deficit in the 4th quarter, and he was successful doing it. What kind of field position to start? Salim Akeem has no return on that good hang time kick with Robbie Gould.
Well, you said it, Mike. He's brought the Jets back to win before. 5 career game-winning drives. That was all as a rookie. That's saying something. Now, he can't win the game with this drive, but he certainly has a chance to push the game into overtime, but he's been inconsistent. Let's see if he can put it all together when they need it the most. Got to pass protect. This is where Jared Allen has wanted to be.
Jared Allen yet to have a sack this season, first 11 quarters. From the 20. Allen closing in, hits Smith as he throws, and it's almost intercepted. Jonathan Bostic couldn't get it as Allen was bearing down on the Jets quarterback.
Jared Allen lives for these situations. That's why he's going to be a Hall of Fame player. Off the left side, he beats the brick of Shaw Ferguson. He punishes Geno Smith. Ball should be intercepted. Ferguson might need some help here.
Allen coming out wide to set up this move. They're going to run Bilal Powell inside. He'll gain 7. It's 3rd and 3. 2:58 left. Jets with 2 timeouts.
Again, Mike, the Jets depleted at wide receiver. Decker, their #1 receiver, out of the football game. They're going to have to do it with somebody else.
3rd down. That is not caught by Curley. Trying to dive and bring it in. 4-down territory here with 2:39. You have 2 timeouts and the 2-minute warning. So if you stop them, you can get the ball back with time left, but the Jets are going to go.
Jason Merrill checks in, their 2nd-round draft choice. Bears have not done a lot structure-wise to create problems. They played 2 deep, 3 deep, an occasional snap of man-to-man, and it looks like the double-A gap blitz right here.
Smith, 4th down, tight pass is caught by Amaro, and all he's got to do is touch the 30 because it was a touchback on the kickoff. So if any part of the ball is touching the 30, and it is, it's a 1st down.
What a huge catch by a rookie tight end. Comes in short motion, sits down immediately.
Interesting. It's where the ball is. Yeah, it's where the ball is, where he comes down and they challenge, and they can. And with other looks, they might win that challenge. Again, it's where the ball is when his knee or body part, shin, whatever it is, comes down. And if it's shy of the white line, it's almost like a goal line
Chicago is challenging the rule of the field of the pass receiver making the line of the game.
I think he's short, Mike.
Yeah. It's almost like breaking the plane here, John, because he has to break the plane, the front of the 30-yard line. So where's the ball when Amaro's body part comes down right there? From that angle, it's hard to tell, but it looks a little short. Jerome Boger has looked under the hood at the replay. Again, because it was a touchback on the kickoff, it's almost like the 30-yard line is the plane of the goal line. Where is the ball? It's in his right hand, which looks like it comes down shy of the 30. Is there enough to turn it over?
Reviewing the play, the ruling on the field stands as a completed catch for a first down.
Boy, I think the Jets got a break there, Mike.
They ended up, that last replay we showed you from the spider cam that goes over the field there is one of the angles they were looking at under the hood, because that one showed you where the ball was in his right hand. So they said stands, not confirmed, which means there was not enough visual evidence to overturn the call on the field. .209 to go. And on the run's Bilal Powell to the 36, and that should take us to the 2-minute warning. Down 8. Jets need a touchdown and a 2 to tie this game.
Hi, folks. Steve Levy in for Stuart Scott. Coming up on the GMC postgame report, Ray Trent and Steve will join me. We'll break down the big game. We'll each pick a team that's already in trouble this young NFL season, and the top 10 plays from Week 3 in the NFL will count them down. See you on SportsCenter after the game. Up to Mike and John for a fantastic finish.
All right, Steve, the winner tonight will be the 13th NFL team to open 2-1. 13 teams will then be 1-3. To go 1-2, I should say, to go with those 3-0 and 0-3 teams, 3 apiece. Final 2 minutes. Smith flush, just gets basically back to the line of scrimmage, and John is looking at a secondary that has been banged up by injury last week and this.
Well, I'll say right corners Kyle Fuller, Charles Tillman's out. Brock Vereen's another rookie playing safety. They've lost Monday. They've lost Conti. I see Danny McCray out there playing safety. He's a backup. Isaiah Fry, number 31, is the nickel. He just got off the practice squad, and Jennings has had to move from nickel to left corner. Good luck.
Nobody moved when Allen came over onto the Jets side. He got back, wasn't drawn off. Then one of the Jets moved on the right side.
False start. Offense, number 66. 5-yard penalty. Still third down.
Watch this, Jared Allen, left side of your screen. He's clearly offsides, but he gets back. And then Willie Colon, 66, thinks the play is over. The strength of the Bears right now is in the pass rush. These are free agent acquisitions that have to deliver now.
Instead of 3rd and 6, it becomes 3rd and 11. There's time for Smith. He looks middle, and it's caught for the first down. Greg Salas at the 40. Salas at the 30. Salas to the 21. Jets very much alive with 1:41 to go.
And another safety's hurt for the Bears.
Danny McCray injured.
They've already lost Ryan Monday. They've lost Chris Conti. Now McCray is down. But the pass rush did not deliver. Geno had plenty of time to throw, and Salas made Fuller miss. Great pass protection. Geno steps up, throws a strike on a deep square into Greg Salas. Kyle Fuller misses a tackle. Down goes McCray. And the rookie Vereen runs him out of bounds. Let's check on McCray.
Salas, who had 1 catch coming into this game, 8 receptions last year. Again, more action because of the injuries. You see McCray just got tied up there as Curley was coming back to block him. He's now sitting up. So let's just get a little housekeeping here, John. The Bears lost a timeout on the challenge, and because they have an injured player in the last 2 minutes, they are charged with a timeout. So Chicago's down to 1. McCray is up. Ahmad Dixon, 36 for the Bears, is in. He's a rookie out of Baylor, signed off of Minnesota's practice squad. He played a bit on special teams for the Bears last week.
This is unbelievable. I've never seen a secondary this depleted in the 3rd regular season game. Let's see if the Jets can capitalize. They have really struggled in the red zone tonight.
And this is about to be Dixon's first snap playing defense in the NFL.
Running the ball is not out of the ordinary here. You have plenty of time with 2 timeouts left.
This is the 7th time the Jets have been inside the 25 tonight. From the 20, Geno Smith will swing it to Bilal Powell. No place to go. The first safety, Brock Vereen, rally to give him nowhere to go, and another tackle by Fuller.
Marty Morningwig likes double moves. Out on that Jet practice field the other day, Decker ran several. He's out of the football game. Nelson at the bottom of the screen, the bigger target. The quicker Turley, number 11, is up top.
Along with the speedster Salim Akeem. Curley in motion. Smith ad-libbing. Flag is down as he throws it away. Flag thrown in the secondary as Smith was out of the pocket.
The quarterback was outside the pocket and got the ball beyond the line of scrimmage.
Thus, there's no intentional grounding, but the preliminary signal from the back judge is defensive holding.
Prior to the pass, holding, defense, number 57, 5-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Bostic, let's take a look at him. End of the play, number 57 against Cumberland. Wow. That's not a call I agree with.
For the Jets, it's 1st and 10 with 1:26 left. They need a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. All these backups in the secondary. As Smith, pressured by Allen, spins away from Allen. Geno looks, fires end zone. Deflected and almost caught by Curley, but incomplete. Kyle Fuller again where the ball is.
And Jared Allen had Geno Smith in his grasp. Allen on the left side of your screen beats Ferguson again, and Geno has a presence to get out of it. Once again, as you say, Mike, Kyle Fuller has a chance to end the football game.
And Allen is hungry, and he's working on one of the best left tackles, the Brickashaw Ferguson. 1:17 left. Jets can get a first down at the 4. Smith pumping, throwing underneath, and is complete to the 10-yard line with Powell. The clock will turn with 1:08 to go. And that will be stopped as the Jets will take their second of 3 timeouts.
This will be an interesting conversation, Mike. Geno Smith and Marty Morningwig on the sideline. You really don't have that tight end to isolate outside and mismatch anybody. And you really don't have a receiver, but the Bears don't have anybody either
to cover him, except for Fuller.
Now, it is a 4-down territory, so obviously I think Marty Morningwig is going to put Geno in a check-with-me situation.
You're at the 9. This is one play. The red zone, the Jets have not done well the last 2 weeks. We watched all their red zone plays in the first 2 weeks. They've been very sloppy there.
Well, they've used some bizarre play selection tonight. Here's an empty backfield set. Keep an eye on David Nelson on the right side of your screen to enter from the bunch formation up top.
3rd and 5 and 4-down territory. And the Bears will take their final timeout.
Mark Trestman saw something that his defensive coaches did not like. He's quick to take a timeout. Look at all the new players in that Bear lineup. Brock Vereen over there getting instruction. Dixon, number 36, who just got here. and the ever-present Lance Briggs is between all of them. So you have some novices, some guys just getting started with the perennial Pro Bowler Lance Briggs. This ought to be interesting.
This happened last week when they lost all these bodies, and Brock Vereen, a safety, had to go play the nickel corner position, and they were figuring out what coverages do you know from your safety training that you can use here, and it's almost making it up in the dirt on the sidelines to find out what he could play.
And Bilal Powell has just checked in, but in these no-back sets, if Geno Smith sees a loose coverage box, they will audible to a quarterback trap. Believe it or not, they trust Smith as a runner in the red zone more than most teams.
Jets have struggled in the red zone. 3rd and 5. Smith throwing. It's incomplete. Tried to get it to David Nelson, and the game comes down to this snap with 1:04 left.
They come with a blitz. They play some one-on-one coverage. Geno gets rid of it. Kyle Fuller in tight coverage. Again, Nelson at the top of the screen in this empty formation. Look for him to enter from right to left.
Scramble to get lined up to Curley in the slot. They do so with Vereen. 4th and 5. Game on the line. End zone shot. Curley catches it out of bounds. No flag thrown. And the Bears somehow put together enough secondary players to survive. And Brock Vereen, who scrambled over to cover Curley in that situation, comes up with the play.
Brock Vereen, Dixon, Fuller, 3 rookies in the secondary. That is clearly incomplete. Credit defensive coordinator Mel Tucker. Going on the road 2 weeks in a row with a depleted defense and having the guts to call an all-out blitz, and they get it done.
That play was similar to, but not as egregious as, Luke Kuechly and Carolyn Charlotte on the Monday night with Rob Gronkowski carrying him out of the back of the end zone. No flag called there. You certainly saw Vereen just put his helmet in Curley's breastplate and carrying him out. But that ball was almost thrown where it had to be caught out of bounds. And the Bears will come away with more injuries, but a victory. 27-19 here, and the Jets will fall to 1-2. And Chicago at 2-1 will get ready for Green Bay at Soldier Field on Sunday.
Excuse me, Mike. Jets had the ball 6 times in the Bears red zone tonight. Just got 1 touchdown.
Yep.
The 2 interceptions, one of them was in the red zone. One of them returned for a touchdown on the first play of the game. Red zone offense not good tonight for New York.
Bears have been good of late on Monday night. They've won 12 of their last 15 Monday nighters. The Jets, meantime, on a short week, have to turn around and get ready for another team that likes to throw it. The Lions come in. And that continues this rough stretch of big-name quarterbacks that the Jets, they had Rodgers last week, Cutler this week. Next week, it's Stafford and the Lions, followed by Rivers, Peyton Manning, and Tom Brady.
Those are 4,000-yard throwers. Wow. Had plenty of chances to win tonight, though.
It's the second timeout the Jets had called. They didn't have a second timeout. The game should have kept rolling there. The Bears snapped the ball before it was marked ready for play.
In position when the ball was last snapped. 2nd down.
Here's Antonio Holmes yelling his best formation in football.
It's a victory play.
Yep. They'll snap it one more time and this thing will be done. Chicago scored the first 14. The Jets made some mistakes. They could not convert to touchdowns in the red zone. And despite emptying the bench with every available DB for the 2nd straight week, the Bears defense, with that one familiar face left who's been in Chicago for a while, Lance Briggs, able to hold off the Jets 27-19. Bears get this one by 8, and they join the Lions atop the division at 2-1. Jets fall to 1-2. Buffalo and New England lead the AFC East, by a game. The GMC postgame's coming up on SportsCenter. Steve Levy and company getting set on the field to bring you all the reaction from here in New Jersey. With John Gruden, Lisa Salters, and the rest of our Monday night team, I'm Mike Tirico. So long from New Jersey. Bears win.